on this case. I spoke a short time ago with Ted Boutros. He's an attorney for the two California couples who are challenging the state's ban on same-sex marriage before the Supreme Court. And also Chad Griffin, he's the president of the Human Rights Campaign. Ted, let me start with you. From what you heard from the justices today, did you get a sense of how they might rule in this case?
It played out just how I thought it would. The court, we had a barrage of questions to the lawyers on both sides. That's what we expected. They asked really tough questions of our side and of the other side. So it's hard to read what's going on. We felt very good because Ted Olson, my law partner, was able to make our key points that children, gay people are being harmed by these discriminatory laws restricting them from marriage. The marriage won't hurt anybody else. In fact, it will enhance society. It will help children. So Ted got all those points out, and the justices on both sides were asking questions. Our opponent wasn't able to point to any harm that would be done and really had no argument as to why people shouldn't be allowed to get married.
Chad, my sense vaguely from listening to the audio that we got from the court today was that actually the Supreme Court would rather not be hearing this case at all.
Well, I think we have to be careful of reading anything into what any one justice says. We know from our past, particularly most recently health care, that sometimes the questions asked is not necessarily where their heads are. So all we can do is wait and see where these justices are. But what Ted Olson so eloquently did was explain how these plaintiffs and the thousands of gay and lesbian couples just like them are harmed in the state of California by Proposition 8. And he did that with those plaintiffs seated in that courtroom. And Chris and Sandy, the named plaintiffs in that case, they're two boys. They were in high school when we started this case. They're about to graduate from high school today. They spent their spring break in that courtroom as Ted Olson stood there and so eloquently described how marriage is a fundamental right, something that this court has found on no less than 14 occasions.
Ted, you've been an attorney in this town for many years. Have you ever seen an issue on which public opinion has shifted so much and so fast? I mean, I think we can show it here. The latest polls on gay marriage suggest that over the last decade there has been a 16-point shift of people in favor of gay marriage. Have you seen this before?
Never seen anything like it, and we think the case has been part of that because we've been basically debunking all the arguments that have been made publicly. Once we had a trial, cross-examining their witnesses fell apart. They actually, one of them, their main witness, came over to our side and agreed with us that marriage equality would be better for America. So I've never seen anything like it. And it's really interesting because today, Chad mentioned the health care decision, there was more outcry about health care. There was more, sort of angst in the public about health care. Here we have public opinion all trending in the direction of supporting marriage equality. I think there's never been anything like it.
But Chad, I mean, in a sense, isn't that irrelevant? Because this is not about public opinion. I mean, should the Supreme Court be making its judgments based on what opinion polls tell us?
Well, look, at the end of the day, it's a wonderful environment to be walking into federal court with public opinion on our side, with the majority of Americans favoring marriage equality, with 80% of people under the age of 30 supporting marriage equality, with a growing number of Republicans, with the majority of Catholics in America supporting marriage equality. That's a fantastic environment to go into that courtroom. But at the end of the day,
to rule on the law,
you're absolutely right. At the end of the day, a fundamental constitutional right is for all of our citizens, regardless of public opinion and regardless of what state border one lives on. And so at the end of the day, these 9 justices will have to look at the evidence that was presented at trial and the precedents and the United States Constitution. And I am cautiously optimistic, as I was when we filed this case, as you know, 4 years ago, with these two incredible attorneys and with these phenomenal plaintiffs.
Ted, if the Supreme Court decides, which is possible, that it actually is going to throw this case out, it doesn't want to hear it, what future for gay and lesbian couples in America in terms of rights to marriage?
I think it's wonderful. First, if the court were to throw this out saying that there's no technical standing, or if they just said we don't want to hear it now, then the Ninth Circuit decision, the Court of Appeals, or the District Court decision would stand. California, there would be marriage equality. And the precedent, the evidence that we developed, no evidence on the other side. The law, I think, has developed clearly. So I think the future is bright. The public support, it's just a great thing for America that that's happening, put aside the court case. So I think the future is very bright. We think now is the time because every day these restrictions are in place, people are getting hurt, but the future looks good.
Ted Boutros, Chad Griffin, the lawyers who brought this case, thank you very much for coming in to join me.
Thank you.
Same-sex marriage, an issue that is moving fast in public opinion and is now being dealt with at legal levels right around.